Hey, everybody, and welcome to Learning from Smart People. I am your host, Rob Oliver, and I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are. It is a beautiful day here in Pittsburgh where I live. We get like 4 of these per year. It's sunny, there are no clouds, it's low humidity. It's a beautiful day. So I hope that wherever you are having a beautiful day as well. And I will just, on this perspective, you know what? Even if the weather is lousy outside, I hope that you are having a beautiful day inside and that whatever it is that you are engaged in is going well for you. And I just wish you a good day. That being said, this is Learning from Smart People, and my smart person today is Jacqui Letran. She is a multi-award winning author, speaker, holistic healer, and founder of Healing Minds. She teaches that success and happiness are achievable by everyone, regardless of current struggles and circumstances. Jacqui, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to have you here. And listen, I mentioned this in in the conversation before we actually started. As a person with a disability, I am always glad to hear about people that say, listen, happiness and success are achievable no matter what your struggles are, no matter what your limitations are, no matter what the circumstances are. That message of empowerment to me is such an important thing. And I guess let's start right there. Is that something that how did you come to understand that? Is it something that you dealt with struggles on your own, or how did that all work for you?
Yeah, definitely. I just want to, before we go into that story, your introduction is perfect for that, right? You're like, it's a great, beautiful day outside. I'm going to have a great day. I wish you all having a great day. But if it's a crappy day out there, I also wish you have a great day, indoor, outdoor, doing whatever you're doing. And that really is all about mindset, right? You can look at whatever is in front of you and create a story that brings you down, or you can look at the same exact thing and go, okay, I have this crappy thing right in front of me. How can I make it okay for me? How can I make it good for me? So your situation doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the most ideal, but it is, really helpful for you to look at it and take from it what you need to propel you for that day to create that success and happiness that you're looking for. So I realized that because I dealt with a lot of depression, anxiety, and insecurity in my teen years, and there was a point where I was actually suicidal. After a bunch of years and a bunch of healing work, I look back at my life and realize, you know what? I had a really good life. I was never abused. I always had a home. I always had love and food and family and everything that you need. But I was constantly comparing myself to other people and seeing all the things I didn't have. And that was where my depression, my anxiety, and all my negativity came from, was comparing myself against other people versus looking at my situation and appreciating what it is that I do have and making the best of that.
Yeah, I use the analogy. I do a lot of speaking, and the analogy that I use is the optimist and pessimist have the glass, and it's whether it's half full or half empty. And my thing is about where is your straw, because some people have a glass that is mostly full, but if you only have your straw in the tippy top, you're only drawing on the air, you're drawing on what's not there, and you get no sustenance from it. As opposed to the folks who, they may not have a whole lot in there, but their straw is in there, and they're drawing on what is sustenance, what is going to give them some satisfaction, what is going to give them, something to enjoy. And I think that that's what you were talking about, where no, you weren't drawing that value from what you had. You were looking at what you don't have, or looking at what was in other people's glass that wasn't in yours. That's it's such a it's such a real thing, because so many times we go through life and we don't look at what we have. We look at what we don't have, and we look at what other people have. How, for folks that are out there that are saying, like, listen, we're dealing with entrepreneurs, we're dealing with small business owners, and someone is saying, like, look, I wish my business was more like somebody else's. I see somebody else is having success that I'm not. There are things that we're going through, and for me as a speaker, COVID came through, and COVID hit speaking harder than it hit other industries. So what can you share with people to say, this is how we can take a look at what's going on in our world and have that shift in mindset and have that shift in how we look at things.
So I think it really requires you as a person taking a step back and looking inwards versus outward immediately, right? The people you see with all their successes, they've done some work. They didn't just wake up one day and I'm going to start this business and now I'm a multimillionaire, world famous person. They did the work. You don't see the work behind this scene. You don't know how many years they struggle, how many businesses they failed at, what they had to give up to get to where they are right now. All you're doing again is looking at a snapshot in that moment of their success and go, I want that. I don't have that. Something's wrong with me. Right. And we all tend to do that. Now, if we were to pause and go, okay, I want that. I'm here. That is here. Let me look here. What can I do here to prepare myself? What can I do here to improve myself? What steps can I start taking so I can start incrementally move towards that goal? Because we as human, we see something we want and we want it yesterday. We don't want to put the work into it, right? It does take that taking that step back. And again, just appreciating every single day, every single part of your journey, because in the struggle is when you're going to realize how incredibly strong you are, how creative you can be, how resourceful you can be.
You hit it on the nose.
I love that. but yeah, seriously, I mean, like the best advice I can give is really go inwards rather than looking outward and saying what you don't have. Look inward and recognize your strength and how can you build on that strength to create that thing that you're looking for.
Okay, but one of the other things that I think about is social media. Okay, on social media, people are posting all of the wonderful things that are happening in their lives. And to me, it almost feels artificial in that nobody posts, well, no, very few people post the lousy things that happen in their lives. Okay. And so when we go out there and we're doing comparisons to other people, if we're just doing it based on what we're seeing in that arena, sometimes the expectations that we're looking at aren't actually reality and aren't reflective of the true nature of what's going on in other people's lives. Do you have some thoughts on, on how that works and what can be done about that? Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. One of the things I heard way back, and I love it so much for explaining or getting a little bit more clear on social media, like you said, it's basically people posting the best of their day, the best of their businesses, right? Because seriously, who wants to read yet another post up? I got up today and you know what, life just sucked and I'm going back to bed. Who wants to read that, right?
Right.
So people post the things that they think are encouraging or things that that puts them in a really good light. But here's what to keep in mind. First of all, stop the comparison game. Don't compare you with them because you don't know what's happening. Compare you today versus you yesterday versus you a week ago versus you a month ago. Where are the progress? Where are the changes that you've made and celebrate that, right? But what I heard that I love so much is that when you look at social media, what you're seeing is the highlight reels of that person's life. And while you look at you and you see all the practices, right? All the crappy practice that you do, all the struggle that you have to do, you're not looking at the highlight reel. Somebody else looking at your social media might be going, oh my gosh, I wish I could be like that person. That person had everything I've ever wanted,
Sure.
right? It goes both ways.
Yeah. Okay. And again, I live in the world of analogy. In some ways, I look at it kind of like I'm a sports guy. So ESPN on Sports Center, they take an entire basketball game and they show you the highlights of that basketball game, sometimes
Yes.
in 30 seconds. And so what you're looking at is you get a couple amazing 3-pointers that are made and you get an amazing dunk or a block and the rest of the game somehow becomes unimportant, right? And you don't see any of that, and you don't see the guy who's making the layups because layups aren't sexy, and you don't see the grunt work of all of the rest of the game. You're just seeing a couple snapshot of highlights, and I think that really is kind of goes to what you're talking about. That a basketball game is more than just 3-point shots and dunks. There is a whole nuance to it that goes beyond
Right.
it. And I think that fits in with what you're talking about. Tell me then, there's got to be so much of what we experience in the world, so much of what we are thinking that goes into our own personal belief system. Like, can you talk to me about the belief system that each of us have, or and how that works and how it impacts the way that we interact with the world?
Okay. That's a really broad question, but I'm going to narrow it down to how I practice in my personal world and with my clients. So I've been doing mindset mentoring and holistic healing for about 11 years now. And what I discovered early in my career is that regardless of why a person come in to see me, there's only four problems. I mean, people would come in and they literally say this to me. They said, Jacqui, I am going to be your best client ever. I'm going to keep you employed for the next 10 years. Look at my list of problems, right? And they literally wrote out 3, 4 pages of problems. And I look at it and I look at it and then I look at them and I said, well, would it be okay with you if I say that this list of problems you have really boiled down to just 4 different things that we need to address? And once we address these 4 things, that list disappear. Would that be okay with you? And they look at me like, okay, are you on something? And whatever it is you're on, I want some of that because that would be amazing. And they're a bit skeptical. But once I explain it to them, it makes a lot of sense. And it's all really about mindset, because whatever it is that you think, that's what your mind will look for evidence to prove to you that you are correct, right? Our mind is amazing that way. It wants us to be right. Even when it's a terrible thing that we're right about, it needs to be right, and it will look for evidence to support that. So boiling down to the 4 beliefs, and I want you, Rob and listeners, to kind of think about your biggest struggle right now and see if one of these 4 or multiple of these 4 are at play. Okay. So the first one is a belief of I'm not good enough. And in business, what are we? I'm not a good enough business person. I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I don't have enough resources. I'm not good enough in some way. And oftentimes, if you have a belief that you're not good enough, you tend to also believe I'm not worthy. I'm not smart enough, therefore I can't have a successful business. Third belief is I'm not loved. And that really play at people a lot in personal life and even in business. The love word might change to no one likes me, no one want to do business with me, something's wrong with me. And you mentioned your disability. A lot of people have various disability, whether it's physical or emotional disability or other types of disabilities. They look at that and they see that and they make a belief system surrounding nobody likes me because I have this, I'm not good enough, therefore I'm not successful, right? And the fourth one is I'm not safe. And I'm not safe could be I'm not safe. Someone's going to hurt me physically, or someone's going to hurt me mental, emotionally. So thinking about those 4, can you see how that can relate in some of the struggles you might be having, whether one's at play or multiple are at play?
Yeah, it makes so much sense that you've got those 4 areas, and they they are, in some ways they're a little bit similar, but they cover such a broad range. So when I was a teenager, I think my dad taught me that inside every big problem is a small problem struggling to get out. And so when you make your list of these are all of my problems, it may just be that there is a root issue there, and that root issue can easily fall into one of the 4 categories that you've laid out. That is that's pretty incredible to be able to boil life's problems down into those beliefs. That I want to go back to something that you said earlier, though,
Okay.
and that is you said in the explanation, I think, that your mind wants to be right about everything. and
Yes.
and in that, when you believe something, when you think something, that your mind works to prove that that thing that you're believing is true. And I think about that from my own personal perspective. When I go into a situation and there's someone that I think I I I think I'm not going to like this person, I can find a bazillion reasons why I'm not going to like them based on my experience with them. As opposed to there's people and I like you and I think everything that you do is good, and I'm willing to pull out a couple redeeming
Right.
pieces from the multitude of what they've done. How does like is there a way to combat that predetermination and to combat that desire to fulfill our own prejudgments and our own thoughts going into a situation.
Definitely. So that's a really good point you bring up. Like if you have a belief, like, I don't like this person, your mind again is only looking for evidence to prove why you shouldn't like this person, right? So if you want to change, there are definitely things that you can do on a conscious level, which scratches the surface, but it doesn't change the root, like you mentioned earlier. But it's a definitely good start. In order to change the root, you have to work with somebody who is, really familiar with it and can guide you in a safe way to change some of those beliefs, because those beliefs came from trauma. So you definitely want somebody who truly understands what they're doing to guide you, or can reignite the trauma and cause secondary problems. But for lack of a better word, the first start or the band-aid of the situation is first becoming aware. Awareness brings so much goodness into it. Awareness and acceptance that is where you are. Okay, I'm aware. I recognize I don't like this person. And maybe there are room for changes, right? The self-talk that you have is how you start to reprogram your mind to start picking up new evidence. All right, I really don't like this person, but you know what? I'm going to keep an open mind today. Now, all of a sudden, you gave your mind a different command, didn't you? Keep an open
Right.
mind,
Yeah.
right? Just be willing to have a different experience. All right, I'm going into this situation. And typically, when I go to a party, I am, and nobody likes me, or, in the business world, go to a networking meeting. I'm awkward, I'm shy, I don't know what to say, but I'm really ready to have a different experience. Just adding a phrase like that changes everything in your mind,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Um, I just, again, I want to pick on something that you said there. You said that a lot of times those beliefs come from trauma. Can you tell me more
Mhm.
about that?
So trauma doesn't have to be major trauma, because a lot of my clients, what they'll say to me is like, I had the perfect childhood. I had amazing parents. My friends at school, they were all amazing. There was nothing bad in my childhood. But again, trauma is however you define it. Just like I said earlier about my own case, I had major depression. I was suicidal, but looking back, I had a really good life, right? So trauma is anything that is a significant negative event to the person,
Okay.
whatever that could be. So trauma could be, a lot of my clients actually have difficulty with doing presentations and stuff like that, and they need to for their work. And in the work that I do, the holistic healing, we go back into childhood events to discover the root cause and the trauma. And it would be something incredibly silly, like, it was their turn to share their favorite toy in kindergarten. And they brought in the thing that they love so much, and they're so excited to share. And when they share, everybody laughed, nobody made a comment. And in that moment, it was traumatic to the child. And in a traumatic moment like that, the subconscious mind would do everything it can to protect you, because its job is to keep you safe, right? It keep you safe physically, and it keep you safe emotionally. So when you have a significant event like that, a traumatic event, your subconscious mind will immediately in that second create a belief surrounding that, and coping mechanism to help prevent you from re-experiencing that kind of pain in the future. So that first event could be, I'm sharing my favorite toy, people laugh at me. In that moment, I can create beliefs of something's wrong with me, I'm not good enough. It's not safe for me to be who I am, because when I share what's important to me, I'm rejected, right? I mean, there's all these beliefs that could be created in that moment from one very minor, and as adult looking back, silly event. But it stays with you, because once you create a belief system, it becomes a program in your mind, and that program runs in the background. So while you might not remember that event constantly, you just feel uncomfortable when it's your turn to stand back up and do a presentation or share of some sort. Does that make sense?
It does. So let me kind of make. I'm going to repeat back to you a little bit of what I came to understand from that, and that is a lot of the a lot of the situations that we are in that we have negative feelings are, and the negative feelings stem from something in our past in which we've we've received some form of damage or negative experience. So whether it's physical trauma or emotional trauma, and that trauma doesn't have to be like major, like break your neck trauma. It can be just bad negative feedback trauma, and our mind then tries to protect us in those situations. So, in other words, when there is that person and the way that they act makes may remind my subconscious mind of a time before when I was treated in that way, and I didn't like the time before, and therefore I am not liking this, and I am not open to get. My immediate reaction is to associate negativity with that person, and then the next part of it becomes that because I'm associating negativity with them, I am interpreting all of their actions through a negative screen. Does that accurately sum up what I was hearing, kind of?
Yes, yes, pretty much exactly that. And I alluded to when you have a trauma like that, you create a belief system and a coping mechanism. The coping mechanism that the mind tends to create is avoidance. Avoidance, fear, and avoidance are incredibly good tactic to keep you away from that thing that is danger, right? So again, with that little speaking event when you were in kindergarten, now you have a belief of it's not safe for me to share myself. It's not, I'm not good enough to be in front of other people. If you have to do a presentation, that things pop up back here, immediately you go into your response, right? You skip all of the logical stuff that goes, well, this, that, the other thing. I'm now a much different person. You go from childhood trauma to the coping mechanism that it created for you, which again tends to be fear based and avoidance. So now you have to do this presentation as an adult. And the thing that goes through your mind is, I'm going to fail. People are going to see, just how not smart I am. People are not going to want to do business with me. Well, guess what? I have a headache today. I can't do this. I'm going to avoid that whole thing. Right?
Yeah. So, talk to me then about how you can take control of that. And because, all right, and I guess what I'm hearing you is that the first step is awareness. And then there's got to be some step in there that helps to put together those steps that are the in between steps. Because you said, sometimes it goes straight from trauma experience to coping mechanism, and in order to unravel that, there's got to be some logical steps that go into that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Definitely. There's just so much in there to unpack, but let me try. So the first part, awareness, a lot of people want to skip that phase. They want to go into the action step. What can I do now that I'm aware? Take the time to be aware. You will be so amazed at what you discover. So maybe for a full 24, 48 hours, take a journal with you everywhere. Every negative thought you have about anything, write it down. You'll be surprised how many negative thoughts you have, right? And a lot of those negative thoughts are going to be about yourself. So be willing to do the discovery phase. Second phase is really about understanding where you want to go. Now you know where you are. Where do you want to go? Because if you don't know where you want to go, the steps leading to it won't make a lot of sense, right? So, okay, I'm here. I want to be here. Let's create some sort of action step in the in between. What I love teaching my clients, and these again are on conscious level, so you have to do a lot of work versus subconscious reprogramming, where it's like this. So, a conscious thing we can do is learn how to go to a calm space in your mind. And a lot of people would tell me initially, it's like, I can't, my mind doesn't shut off. It's constantly negative, fearful, or I have a million thoughts in my head all the time. And I say, yes, you definitely can learn how to switch it off and go to a calm space. The first thing, again, is recognizing you are the boss of your mind. Your mind has been running on autopilot with all the beliefs you created when you were a child and through significant events as an adult. And it's just running in the background like this, but you're the boss. You get to tell it to stop. And here's another thing that people don't recognize that is incredibly important is that emotions are choices. You actually get to choose how you want to feel. Okay. So combining those two things is recognizing if you want to feel calmness, you can command your mind to feel calmness. And this step is incredibly simple. Anybody and everybody can do this. It takes practice. So the first thing you want to do is recognize the current emotion that you have. A lot of people don't want to deal with the emotion. They just want to go to the next step. But that's kind of like avoiding that elephant in the room. You got to identify that elephant. You got to name the elephant. You got to take away its power. So let's say you feel anxious. That's okay. You don't have to feel amazing every moment of the day. It's okay to feel anxious. Those negative emotions are actually amazing guidance if you pause and look at it from an objective place. What is this anxiety telling me, right? But so recognize you're anxious and say to yourself, either in your mind, out loud, doesn't matter, even though I'm anxious, I choose to be calm. Then say, I choose to be calm 2, 3 times. And then repeatedly say, I am calm, I am calm, I am calm, in the calmest voice you can possibly find. And as you're saying, I am calm, in your mind, imagine you doing something that calms you down. For me, it's getting a massage. So when I'm doing I'm calm, I'm on the table, there's music, there's candles, there's essential oil, my body's relaxed. It's amazing. And what you're doing is this, you're telling your mind, even though I'm nervous, I choose to be calm. Calm looks like this. Give me evidence of that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So there's two pieces to what I'm hearing you say. That the first piece I want to pull out is that you have to identify where you are before you can start to make the move to where you want to go. And I'm thinking about that just from a straight travel analogy, right? Where, you call somebody and say, I want to come over to your house. How do I get there? And they say, well, where are you? I don't know where I am. I just want to come to your house, right?
Right.
That doesn't work. I can't tell you how to get to where I am until you identify where you are. I can't tell you how to get to where you want to go until you've identified where you are, which I think. And then the other piece is that you're talking about the power of like affirmations, being able to what you are saying and what you are thinking, how that impacts your mind. That's such a powerful thing. And do you want to do you want to expand on that at all?
So affirmations are different than just regular daily direction to me, right? The daily direction is important, but the affirmations are bigger. They're more of a big tool that you can use versus the daily thinking is just, I guess, those minor steps. I'm explaining this incredibly poorly. Okay, but affirmations. And let me go to something that's really important about affirmations. Most people will tell me, I've been doing affirmation for a couple years, or I started affirmations a few months ago and it's not working. In fact, it's making me feel worse about myself and my situation. And there's a reason why. Affirmation actually doesn't work if you don't know this tiny little step. Do you want me to share that tiny little step?
I'm all ears because I'm one of those people that like affirmations never work for me, and I'm all ears to hear what you've got to say.
All right, affirmation doesn't work if what you're saying doesn't align with your belief system, because your mind will call BS on you, right? You practice thinking and feeling a certain way, and now let's say, you have a belief of I'm unlovable, nobody loves me, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to do affirmation, everybody loves me. Your mind's going to go, BS. Josh doesn't like you, Kevin doesn't like you, Amy doesn't like you, nobody likes you. And it will throw out all the evidence to match what you've been practicing, which is thinking and feeling a certain way. It's just practicing being that way. Now, the key part of affirmation is aligning the words to the emotion. And so people are like, well, if I already have that, then I don't need to do affirmations, right? So there's a key little step. It's very simple, but it's so incredible. And before I go into that, I'm going to give you a little story because I know you like
analogies.
Thank you. I'm lost for words.
No problem.
So let's imagine you and I are best friends, right? And you're at the grocery store. You're in line getting ready to pay for your stuff, and I come behind you and I shove you really hard and I say, "Move, jerk." What is your initial instinct? You don't know who's behind you yet, right?
Right.
You're just getting shoved.
My initial instinct is like, what in the world? Like, no, I'm not moving. You're a jerk, right?
Right. And you're going to turn around, gear up for a fight of some sort.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you're timid, you close in and you try to hide somehow. But it's going to be that negative feeling. Now you turn around and you see me and we're best friends and we call each other jerks all the time. How are you going to feel?
Yeah. Oh, now I feel like, oh, hey, it's you. It's good to see you.
Right. And you probably shove me back and go, no, you move, jerk. And now we're having fun and we're laughing. Now, the difference is the intention behind it, right? The energy behind it. The words are the same. And that's the problem with affirmation. You can use the exact same word as somebody else and have really crappy results because, again, one is a friend and one is a stranger or somebody you don't like. So when you do affirmation, go strong. Start with an I am statement, because I am is a declaration to yourself and to the universe. This is what I am. I'm embodying this right now. So if you want to go from feeling unloved to feeling loved, start with I am loved and see how it feels. Pay attention to your body. If you're not aligned, your body will let you know. Always,
Right. Yeah,
right? So
absolutely. So I'm just thinking about it from the perspective that if your affirmation, it goes back to to what we were talking about earlier, okay? And that is what you are looking for, you find, okay? So if my affirmation is I am loved, and I go through the day looking for evidences of not being loved, that's I'm going to find those. Whereas if I go through the day looking for the evidences of being loved, I'm going to find those, and you know, which of those I'm looking for will dictate which of them I find, and which of them I find is going to dictate whether or not my mind accepts or rejects the affirmation that I've given. Does that make sense at all?
I'm going to step you back because that's
Okay.
where most people fail. And most people don't have affirmations that work because of that line of thinking. So a lot of people are taught you just say these wonderful things and it comes to you. Again, it's the emotion behind it, just like move jerk, best friend, or move jerk, stranger, right?
Right.
So when you say, I am loved, and that's just something you're working on, check in with your body. If it's misaligned, you might feel something. You might have, you know, pressure in your chest. Your heart might beat faster. You might have tension in your shoulder. You might have butterfly in your stomach. Your mind will give off a physical sensation somewhere to tell you BS. So
Okay.
pay attention to that. And if you notice any, heaviness or any difficulty in your physical being, know that you are misaligned. This is the magic step right here. Recognize, again, awareness, recognize that if you continue that path, what you are doing is affirming the negative emotion, not the words,
Got it.
right? So if you say, I am loved, but you're like, your chest is crushed, you're affirming, I'm not loved. So recognize that first. And the next step you want to do is baby step it back down and say, I'm willing to be loved. I'm willing to know that I'm loved, right? Just thinking about I am loved versus I'm willing to be loved or I'm willing to be lovable. How does that feel immediately right there?
Yeah. It makes a huge difference in the way that you're looking at it. So,
Exactly. And now your mind starts to soften up from this I'm not loved to, oh, okay, I'm willing, right? And now this is easier to change than this.
right.
Now, if you say, I'm willing to be loved or I'm willing to know that I'm lovable, whatever that words you use, but start with the willing, and you're still like, oh, there's still pressure in my chest. You're still misaligned. Take one more step. Be good to yourself. When you do an affirmation, take it all the way through. If it feels good immediately, pat yourself on the back, say, I love you, you're amazing, and go on to your day. If you have negative sensation, do the third step, and it is, I'm willing to know it is possible for me to be loved. I'm willing to know it is possible for me to be lovable, right? Your
Okay.
mind is beautiful. It is willing to know about possibilities.
Got it. Yeah. It makes a whole lot of sense. Jacqui, I feel like I could talk to you for, another half an hour, but we've come to the end of our time. And if people are looking to learn more about you and more about what you're doing, where can they find you?
So the easiest place to find me is on my website is JacquiLetran.com, JacquiLetran.com.
Beautiful. And I will put a link to that down in the show notes. And you have got an offer for my listeners. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's a little ebook I created based on three of my other books. I'm an author by choice, and I write for teens. But the content in the books actually applies to anybody who wants to make improvements. So if you're an adult and you're interested in this four beliefs, one of my book called "I Would," but my damn mind won't let me talks about the four beliefs so that you can get a deeper dive into that. But what I created was an ebook called Six Simple Ways to Conquer Your Inner Critic. We all have that voice inside our head. And as you know, if we know how to turn that off or start changing those mindset or changing those self-talk, you're going to start noticing your mind will look for different evidence and you will have different results.
Fantastic. I will put links to all of those down in the show notes. It is time for 3 questions to establish your humanity. Are you ready for these, my friend?
I am not ready. No, I'm just kidding.
What is your opinion on modern art?
You know, I don't have that much art in me. So I'm gonna say when I go to look at art, I bring a friend who know a whole lot and who can share with me.
Got it. So, yeah, I will just say sometimes my opinion is I don't get modern art.
Yes.
So that could be that. We'll just say that that is on me. Uh, what is your favorite drink?
Water. Isn't that boring, but is life sustaining? And I am allergic to alcohol.
There,
That might not make me human.
no problem. There, you're in a judgment-free zone. Last question for you is soup. Okay, cold soup. Is cold soup an acceptable thing, or should soup only be served warm?
Well, there's no should in my world. I
Okay,
prefer hot.
got it. Well, they make like cold soups for the summer, like watermelon soup and just different stuff like that. Have you ever tried them, and would you be open to that?
I have tried them and some are okay, but for me, soup is piping hot is the way to go. But I'm very open to whoever wants to do whatever they want to do.
That works. Jacqui Letran, thank you so much for being with me today. I appreciate you sharing. You've given us a lot to think about. To all my listeners, I appreciate you, and I will remind you that when you stop learning, you stop living. Have a great day, everybody.